Hello, Mr. Gao. Are you home there in Taiwan? You know, we didn't get the tax check this month. Is there a problem? Can we expect that pretty soon?
I mean,
we're going to have to send somebody over there, Jim. Good morning. Welcome back to Talking Racine. The usual suspects are here. George Myers.
Morning.
Jim Spodek, the producer, and I'm Dr. Ken Jorgen, your host. Now, if you remember back to episode 31, which you probably don't because I forget a lot of them myself. This guy is the archivist here. Episode 31 was the lemonade episode, and that was based on Governor Scott Walker's statement about anybody who, how did exactly you say it? There's a whole lot of people out there scrambling to try and come up with a reason not to like this, Walker said in Eau Claire. I can tell you that's fine, but I think they can go suck lemons. Friends, welcome to the lemonade episode. We named that the lemonade episode because we were not real believers. So this is
They've been drinking too much Kool-Aid.
Since
the lemonade show.
They've been drinking the Kool-Aid, and man, is Foxconn in the news this week.
Yeah.
Oh,
boy,
mackerel! It's
I know you guys were a little bit opposed. I wasn't as smart as you. I was just questioning it. But boy, all the questions are coming out the wrong answers.
we were questioning it too, which is what the skepticism
but you seem more
based
certain
on.
that it was doomed, and I didn't know. I just said, you know, when I saw the stage with 8 politicians and 1 businessman, I said, wait a second.
That's a scary sight.
Political. Yeah.
Well, I think we were all on board that we were hopeful. You know, if the community was going to really invest this kind of money and this kind of effort, we were hopeful that it was going to succeed and it was going to do all the things that they promised that it was capable of doing. But even though we were hopeful, we were pretty damn skeptical.
Well, yeah.
And this past week is pretty much, man, everything that we were questioning and worrying about, now they're talking about. Which is insane. I mean, this is a multi-billion-dollar operation that they're talking about. And they're just now discovering some of these things that the three of us, we're not manufacturers. We had questions, and apparently they were
basic questions.
Yeah.
First off, the first thing you do financially, don't put all your eggs in one basket. They did that, and now you got catastrophic if this doesn't go the way they hope to. I mean, these flat screen TVs they were going to build, and it started out with Reuters,
news service,
on the 30th of January, rather than manufacturing.
Now that's of this year. We're talking about just
a couple days ago.
Yeah, a couple of days ago.
Instead of manufacturing the LCD panels in the United States, Wu said it would be more profitable to make them in Greater China and Japan, shipped into Mexico for final assembly, and import the finished product to the United States.
We were talking about how are they going to replace their $2 worker with $14 a worker.
Yeah.
Exactly.
All of a sudden they realize that they don't have
sense.
cheap labor here like they have over in Taiwan. And
regulations.
Like this is a revelation to them, for crying out loud. What the hell kind of businessmen are they?
You can abuse workers, you can get them jumping off of buildings, whatever it is. And here,
well, you can do that here too, but you got to be connected.
Yeah.
But here, I guess one of the questions I guess we were talking about earlier were, we've got $4.5 billion committed to these jobs. If these jobs don't materialize, the $4.5 million will not be expended for these credits.
Yeah.
Now, my feelings are good. We don't need to spend the $4.5 billion. It might have just dodged a bullet instead of going into this halfway and have it explode. I think it's a good idea. Personally, I'm kind of, I know it sounds bad, but I'm glad that it came to this point this early, so we have at least a chance to recover. I don't know if Mount Pleasant has the same.
Well, that's my issue, too. Mount Pleasant is on the hook for almost $1 billion. Yeah. That's a community of 27,000 people.
Right.
With that level of debt.
Right.
I mean, we're screaming about, we got $100 million here in Racine, approximately?
Well, now let's go to Racine. $26 million or $20-some million to put into the water and wastewater treatment plant.
Yeah.
To supply this 2,900 acres that we Mount Pleasant bought to turn over to Foxconn.
And if they don't start some kind of manufacturing out there, then the technology that we've invested in really is useless. Well, it can be used for something else, but I
Right.
mean, it's not going to be used the way it was intended. If
let's just go back.
Down.
July, when we first came out and asked those questions early in July of 2017, we were probably the only ones that really asked those questions, and we got a little bit of static because
it wasn't
of that.
politically correct,
Right. But the fact was, we asked those questions, and at that time they were going to produce 13,000 jobs. 75% of them were going to be assembly line at $53,000 a job. I mean, we knew that was nuts right then and there. I mean,
we also knew that they came in with a plan to do, what was it, 5,000 jobs or 6,000, and Scott Walker said, well, I want 10. They said, okay, well, we'll do 10.
Yeah. I mean, this thing was such...
You need more? We'll do more.
Yeah. Well, what do we have to promise in order to get this?
And
I mean, that was the type of thing going on.
I went back to our discussions we had back in episode 31, and we talked about Trump needed to claim he was bringing jobs back to the U.S. Ryan needed to show he was working for Wisconsin. Walker needed to say he was on his way to creating 250,000 jobs, and the state and local Democrats went along for the ride. I mean,
Walker never got anywhere close to 250,000 jobs.
But the fact was, it was all political. I think this was political from the beginning. These and the local politicians start drinking Kool-Aid right from the get-go, falling over each other, trying to make this happen.
And that is so typical. That's how KRM got sold, the arena got sold. The local politicians have all their little plans, and they need a lot of money to do it. They're struggling with the tax problem, and here comes somebody saying, here's your answer.
Yeah, here it is.
Well, it makes them look like a big shot if they make some decisive move, something dramatic. And Corey Mason talked about that. He talked about a big, dramatic, game-changing project.
It was the bigger the better.
Yep.
And the answer I still maintain, it's in smallness. Bring back cottage industry, reduce your regulations, reduce your tax base, let the average guy have a chance to get in and
here's the other thing, George. If we go back,
and you're going to get a lot better results for a lot less money.
This is nothing new because we did. If you remember, Delta Hawk.
Right.
I remember Delta Hawk,
They came in. It was going to produce a diesel.
We were going to be Boeing all over again.
Right.
It's a brand new
diesel aircraft engines.
A brand new concept in airplane.
No one looked at the product. No one said. We looked at it. We said, listen, these diesel engines are not. They're great for a specific, particular third world country application, but they're not going to be this big takeover, and we're going to continue on and with big, huge manufacturing. We're going to claw back when the money was spent, and then they realized it wasn't happening. We're going to claw back. That didn't happen. Then you got Machinery Row, the same thing. And I think on one of the shows we called Foxconn Machinery Row on steroids. Now we're at Foxconn. I mean.
Well, and the Porter Project too. Remember the Porter Project? That was wasn't that a burst water pipe that put that project down?
That was another one. I mean.
And now I read that the mayor had a burst water pipe in his house.
Yeah. Anyway,
we're going to have a vacant lot full of mulch over there now. I hope not.
But anyway, in March of 18, they dropped their employee percentage from assembly line workers to 33%, and 66% would be skilled labor. And then in August of 2018, they went down to 10% of assembly persons and 90% skilled labor. So all the job creation that was going to be done by the city of Racine and all this big talk about how we have to change things and Foxconn's coming and it's going to change the whole landscape, who's getting these jobs now? Skilled workers are going to get the jobs. Where are they going to find these skilled workers?
What I'm afraid of, I'm just thinking as I'm looking at those figures, that this 18% skilled, up to 66% skilled, up to 90% skilled, is actually the same number of workers.
Yeah.
Oh, 90 workers?
Yeah, whatever it is. It's the same number of workers, and the 13,000 is the one thing that's going down
$10 billion.
You can't have 90.
They're not shifting it around. You're not going to have 10%.
It would be close to 10,000.
Close to 10,000.
High skilled workers.
People doing research. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
I mean, again, quit drinking the Kool-Aid. Just break some of these numbers down.
Well, President Trump got on the phone. He talked to Terry Gow, and he says, Terry, don't be changing the story. Stick with it. Come on. We got a good thing going here.
Terry.
We got a good thing going. You're going to get the people scared.
The show must go on.
You're going to get them scared.
I think the best we're going to get out of Foxconn, if it sticks around, if it actually does something, is a distribution center. I mean, I think that's it. We put the roadways in, we brought the water, we brought the roadway to the airport.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, what are your thoughts? I mean, I guess where do you go from here?
Is all that in now? Is the roadway in?
Well, they're
the
still
airport?
putting it in, but you know, we're talking about
they're building it. They're actually constructing it.
Yeah, but how can he stop now? They're talking about $900 million worth of debt to Mount Pleasant. Now, here's the other thing. They talk about, and what I've heard from the Kool-Aid drinkers too was, well, wait a second. You know, if they don't, they are guaranteed to have basically an assessed value of $1.4 billion. So what they're going to remember the 20,000.
Yeah, they said they're going to have to pay taxes on that land whether they do anything there or
Correct.
not.
How do you think that's going to work for the next 40 years?
Yeah.
Oh, geez, I can't produce because I don't have the workers.
Hello, Mr. Gao. Are you home there in Taiwan? You know, we didn't get the tax check this month. Is there a problem? Can we expect that pretty soon?
I mean,
we're going to have to send somebody over there, Jim.
Yeah, I mean, it's just...
That takes us back to the negotiating with people in foreign countries and how different things are perceived.
When they have a cultural difference.
Right. Yeah, and that was an article that was brought out when they were negotiating. So the state of Wisconsin and the village of Mount Pleasant was operating off of unknown grounds. That's not the way they look. When they were signing a contract, it's like signing and hey, that's a good idea thing. You know?
Right.
Yeah, I would agree it's a good idea, but that could change dramatically as time goes on. So if the money isn't there, if the production in there pay the taxes, it's going to be. What are you talking about? What tax payment?
Right.
It's going to.
Right.
I'm afraid it's going to be something like that, according to what we were reading about the way contracts are set up in China.
In one of the areas that I would think that hopefully we have individuals that are elected that go a little deeper than just the surface discussions and go into the tech industry. From early on, the tech industry said never going to happen. These are people that are in that industry, and they kept coming back and say it's not going to happen. It doesn't make sense. There's big holes in this projects, and nobody wanted to hear that. You know, it was all just
Well, the way tech evolves, I mean, it's so
moves.
Unpredictable.
Right.
I mean, we were talking earlier about they want to talk about modeling this region after Silicon Valley out in California. Well, Silicon Valley did not come in as one big, ginormous project, and boom, all of a sudden you got all these thousands and thousands of jobs and all these great products. Silicon Valley happened very organically. There were people working in their garages building computers. I mean, this was back before there were personal computers. This stuff got started. Steve Wozniak was one of the guys, and Steve Jobs, I think, worked with Wozniak.
Exactly.
So the computers were new then. There was no such thing as personal computers. Well, there already are TVs and so on and so forth, and that's going to change. I mean, I've seen reports from trade shows where the technology that's coming down in the future is make this stuff looks obsolete already.
Listen, the other thing in the tech industry talks about 8K, which was a big thing. With they're going to create 8K screens. Well, 8K is great, but in the tech industry, they're saying don't bother with 8K. It's not going to be the big hoopla that it's going to be the 3D of the screens. It's not going there. There's
the average person can't detect the difference.
Right, and there's no content. I mean, and to say that Foxconn's going to be this big 8K developer, yeah, it may be, it may not. The fact is they threw all this stuff up against the wall, and nobody actually looked at it to say, does this actually make sense? We were so hyped up.
And we're not, and I'm not saying anyway, after I read the article, I'm not saying that Foxconn couldn't become a great developer and come up with some tremendous ideas. Mm-hmm. But like you guys said, I mean, who would have thought 10 years ago that everybody would be walking around with a camera in their phone?
Yeah.
Stupid things like that come up, and all of a sudden it's marvelous. I can't be without my camera. I can't be without my phone. I'm taking pictures all over the place.
Exactly.
Well, I see a possibility if we got 3,000 acres of very, very expensive land sitting out there fallow with maybe a few buildings on it, maybe some taxes coming in, very possibly no taxes coming in, and there's water rights out there. There's going to be a huge concrete pad built by some time, and what's it going to be? And now they're talking about, well, you have to remain flexible. You have to be able to adjust your expectations.
Well, you do, and all I'm saying
but when you're talking
if
this
Foxconn is going to come up with the next great idea, yeah, okay, then it goes. But if they don't, And who knows what the next great
We had
IC
the
is going to be.
episode-
But the developer, it fell through like Rodney Blackwell did here.
It looks
at Machinery
eerily
Row.
like Machinery Row.
Yeah, it was. It just, it's all the houses
So
are
what are
gone.
we going? Where are we
Nothing's
going?
there.
Where do we go here? I mean, here's my thoughts are: it's going to be at best a distribution center because that's what America will buy. They will, and maybe an Amazon type of operation at some point. Foxconn gets into. I don't know, but I don't even blame Foxconn or Terry Gao or Wu or whoever because their business. The business is not moving. That it's changing direction. The Apple is down on their supply chain is down, so they've got to make these adjustments. But nobody thought of this prior to.
Well, that's the incredible thing.
I'm hoping. I'm going to go back to the Common Council because I know it's not going to come from the top. Corey Mason and Scott Walker and all these, the new governor Tony Evers, they're too much into the big thing. Bigger is better.
Yeah.
And I hope the aldermen will really, particularly in Racine, will look at this and say, look at, maybe the next thing is going to come out of somebody's garage.
Right.
It
Make
could be.
simple.
Just get the deregulation down. Let people get started in businesses more easily, and you just there's 30,000 thinking minds in Racine. There's another 40,000 that are probably dead, but there's a lot of thinking people out there in Racine, and who knows? If you let them loose, they might come up with the next idea that just suddenly takes advantage of all that stuff out there in Mount Pleasant.
All of the big businesses that were the bedrock of Racine manufacturing all started out small.
Right.
Yeah.
They all started out in people's garages and basements and so on.
Okay, where are we going here? What do you think? What do you think, George? What are we going to do with this chunk of land out here?
I would say, you know what? I just made my case. In fact, that's what I was thinking. You have to let that sit there. Let's start with something that is much more workable, not going to cost any money. Deregulate, lower your taxes, and somebody's going to come along and figure out something for that land. But don't you try and do it because you're trying to foresee the future. You're going to try and dream up things that
with our money.
With other people's money that just have very, very little likelihood of actually succeeding.
Yeah.
That's what I see. That's and the biggest problem with my idea is it's not new. It's been sitting around for decades, and people.
Well, how
other
can it
people
be
like me
yours
have been
then?
talking about.
How is it yours?
It's not mine.
Did you say it was my idea?
Well, it's a good idea.
No,
I got it.
no. I'm just saying that I'm not saying it's my idea
No,
that
I
I
know
dreamed
what
up. It's just my concept of what we need to do is that's it.
Doc.
Well, I'll tell you what. I've talked to you guys. I've got a theory about all
I'd
this
let
stuff.
her riff. Go ahead. I mean, I won't get too crazy with it. Go ahead.
Well, I think eventually.
Get your antennas out, folks.
No, I think eventually what's going to happen is there's going to be a grab for Great Lakes water. I think that this is part and parcel to such an effort. I won't go into it too deep, and people might think that's crazy,
Yeah.
But water is going to be the gold of the future. I mean, it's already very, very valuable. There's not enough drinkable water, fresh water on the planet to meet the needs of everybody right now. And we're sitting on a big puddle over there, and we've got a guy by the name of John Dickert, who's the president of the Great Lakes St. Lawrence Seaway Consortium. And I'll tell you, I can't remember ever encountering a more self-interested individual than John Dickert. And to put him in charge, well, technically they're not in charge of that resource, but they do have influence over policies about the water. And I think eventually that something's going to happen there. I really do. And
you're talking about on that plot of land because of the supply of water.
Well, not necessarily. Yeah. Well, the plot of land has got now water rights attached to it.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean.
And F.C. Johnson has got basically unlimited use
with
of
that
water.
Combination there. He thinks somebody's going to come in and.
Somebody will covet that.
Okay.
Somebody will covet that. I don't have any doubt about it, and we'll just see how it all plays out.
You guys mentioned Nestle. I mean,
Nestle has had their fingers slapped around the Great Lakes Basin a couple of times, and they're right out in Burlington. In fact, I told somebody this the other day. I said, "Listen, Johnson Wax, we're in the third or the fourth generation of family there now, and typically you get into those later generations, and it gets to the point where there's nobody to take it over in the family." And it gets sold to some other interest. Well, I wouldn't be surprised to see somebody like Nestle, which is a gigantic corporation, want to buy Waxdale, which is basically just a big bottling plant.
Yeah, it's a water plant.
You stop putting chemicals in it, and you just sell the water. And
Let's just take this project for face value. They came in, they paid premium dollars for this land, moved people off. Now you've got a very, very expensive piece of property. About 1,000 acres, I believe, is owned by Foxconn now. Foxconn can do anything they want with it because they own it. They don't necessarily have to use these tax credits from the state, and I hope they don't use them. Because I think it's going to be, they'll do a distributing plant there. But the debt is the killer for the community. It's not so much the state $4.5 billion. It's this $900 million that's going to be hanging around the neck of Racine County. Somewhere along the line, somebody's going to want to get paid. Those bonding companies are going to be asking. Those bonds will either get bought out, and the jackals will move in. And that's usually what happens in a situation like this, because now the Kool-Aid drinkers are desperate. What can I do to...
And if you don't have the money, what do you have?
We got water. And we got water. So there is a serious situation here that has to be looked at, because, you know, we can all look at the old woe is me that Foxconn may not doing what they plan on doing. But what's the flip side to that? That's the part that could be quite dangerous to a community.
Yeah. Well, absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's happened to it's happened in entire countries around the world.
Yep.
This very kind of scenario playing out. And it's pretty destructive. Anyway, that's our thoughts on Foxconn for the week.
Right.
So we want to move on to our next topic, which is ethics considerations. That's the next topic. And the consideration that we're interested in mostly is the fact that Attorney Cafferty is representing somebody, a police officer.
Right.
And
he was brought before an ethics board, I believe.
Well,
Right.
yeah, Cafferty was brought before the ethics board
Yeah.
because he also sits on the Police and Fire Commission, and he's representing an employee of the police department. So,
Well, they must have cleaned his clock, huh? The ethics board?
yeah, they did. They cleaned his clock. They put new batteries in it. They wiped his face, and they said, "You're doing a good job. You're keeping good time."
I tell you.
We've always had a problem with the ethics committee or whatever it is now. Now you can't even find out who's on it. That's been a long-standing problem.
I think they've become, well, I don't know, at least in my mind, they've become sort of a joke.
Yeah.
You know, when we saw them before with regard to ethics question, and one of the members was sleeping or something.
Yeah, he was sleeping. Yeah, we had a sleeping member.
And it was...
Well, for a long time, nobody paid any attention to the ethics board. It was just there, and really, it was kind of like reassuring for the public. Oh, we got an ethics board. I guess everything's on the up and up.
Yeah.
Well, then people started taking a look at it. Well, specifically you and us started taking a look at it, and we were like, whoa, this is not what I expected from an ethics board.
It's about the last thing of an ethics.
Yeah.
It's basically a joke. I mean, I'll go on.
I think Jim had talked about it. We talked about it a little before, and I think it's a really good idea. I think the ethics board should be from people that are outside of the community. In other words, after Jim thinks, and I agree with him.
Yeah, ethics are ethics.
Yeah, and it'd be like an impartial body, like you have a jury and a judge listening to a case.
Right.
Well, when you have an ethics case, and like in Racine, and the people that are coming before the board are practically related to the people on the ethics board, because you're not getting into trouble. Probably, unless you're well connected. If you're not well connected, you're going over to see the judge. See, so this is a way to get by if you are well connected.
Right.
And of course, you're not on the ethics board unless you're well connected. So all the connectivity is there between them, and the ethics board is really it's a farce.
But I think really, if you could use another community, I mean, have it automatically, if there's an ethics complaint, it goes to Kenosha, it goes to Walworth, wherever. But it should move itself out of Racine and have a real ethics, really to look at it. I mean, and I realize that
it's too close.
It's way too close. I mean, you got and let's face it, when that first came up and said he's going to have he's on the Fire and Police Commission, he's going to represent one of the officers who were drunk driving or whatever it was. No, and here I just pulled it up, and it's pretty well known. It says, if there is doubt as to whether or not the acceptance of professional employment will involve a conflict of interest, the should avoid even the appearance of professional impropriety. I mean, even the appearance.
Yeah,
well, there's
exactly.
appearance there. And that is pretty much the standard that it goes by. And for the ethics committee to say it's okay because, well, you know, he'll recuse himself if anything happens, and he doesn't have direct contact with him. Yeah, even so, there's a connection there. There's people that talk. There's anybody, and we bring it up. So if there's any possibility that there could be an appearance, then he should recuse yourself.
But when you're on a board and you represent, you know, and you're talking about there's a police department, you know, all the officers, and you're taking one of those officers that's in trouble, and now you're going to represent him. And
even if they never come in front of that board, it still doesn't matter.
Yeah,
you still have the appearance that there could be something.
Yeah, the standard is exactly that. It shouldn't even look funny.
Right.
You know?
So to get that past the ethics board, it didn't surprise me at all. I could have told you it was going to happen anyway, but you know, because we've done that road. But now that you bring that up, we talked about the appearance that there could be something wrong, and now we're going to move to the municipal judge who basically resigned.
Yeah, she submitted a letter to the Common Council, and of course this is Rebecca Mason we're talking about, who is the wife of the mayor, Corey Mason. And as of the 22nd of February, she's going to be leaving her office there. And from all that we know, she's done a pretty decent job over there. However,
when we talked about it, when we learned a little bit more about her, when we first found out about this relationship, our feelings was, well, you know, she sounds like she could be pretty decent as a judge. You know, she's not going to come down and bang everybody on the head that comes in front of her. She was kind of work with people.
But this situation it's exactly what we were just talking about. It's certainly got the appearance of a conflict of interest.
It does. And Jim, a couple of people you had discussions with when you mentioned that the municipal judge was the wife of the mayor, it was like they had to say, what did you say, Jim?
Let's do that. Let's go through that one more time.
Did I hear what I think you said?
Yeah.
Because I don't think people quite understand, and I don't know why this wasn't brought up. It was brought up in the last race, but the executive branch and the judicial branch, you can't have
a
husband and the wife. That is so wrong, and that is why. And I don't have any documentation that says she was asked to resign. But my guess is it's not to take care of the kids. It's because you don't abruptly leave your post when you were elected because you want to take care of your kids. I do believe there's been an ask to resign for the conflict of interest. And I mean, I'm going to stand by that.
Yeah. I think that's probably true.
Pretty good comment, too, about, you know, why because she was there first.
Yeah, she was there first, and so you've got a husband and wife that are now operating in a context which implies a conflict of interest, and I can imagine the discussion around the dinner table was that somebody's going to have to make an adjustment, and once again, it's the woman.
I think it's important that should be cleared up. It shouldn't be just hanging out there in the community. You quit because you're going to take care of kids. Everyone knows that's probably not right. But I do think it's important that the community understands what happened here, because it was brought up. It was brought up in the campaign, and I'm not trying to like hang a ball and chain around her neck. The fact is, it should be that when you clear the air, why is Racine not told the truth? I mean, if it's here, is it Racine is always kind of like, well, the people in Racine don't need to know, or they don't need to understand. Racine has a reputation for that. That wouldn't happen, I don't believe, in other communities. I don't think it's going to happen in Kenosha. I don't think so. Yeah. You're going to have a reason.
It's not going to happen in Kenosha.
If there's a ruling coming down on someone to step aside because there's a conflict of interest, it's going to be reported, or it's going to.
You think so?
Yeah, I think so. Well.
I've heard of communities after they find out, they said, I wish I had known about that, or I think we should keep it quiet because I'm more concerned about our reputation.
No, you're talking about Racine again.
Yeah. No, I'm talking about other communities.
I just think that we always have this, you know, we got secret courts, we got secret emails, we got everything is secret. Everything's got to be a secret.
It doesn't have to be.
It doesn't have to be. Put it out in the open, correct the situation, and move forward.
Yeah.
That's what needs to be done. Well, anyway, there's my soapbox.
Yeah.
I just want to put in a name here, Rob Weber. Some of you know. I think he would have been a really magnificent municipal judge.
Well, Rob actually volunteered to take that position until that was a partial term.
Right.
The skullduggery started with the Common Council and the secret meeting with Terry.
But he volunteered to take it. He said, "I'm not going to run for that position. I will just fill it, and then the people who do run for it can enter on an equal footing."
That was the extent of his...
It won't be somebody that's running to get reelected or to maintain the position. He said, "I'll go in, I'll do the job, then I'll get out of the way, and you can have an election."
Oh, all right. And I guess the council vote was...
But I agree. You know, if he'd be willing, I think he would be very good.
I think he'd be fantastic
to fill in for this.
Well, he'd be well experienced.
I like his attitude.
He's
I like
honest.
his ideas. Yeah.
So there you go. That's about it for today. We're leaving now. We hope you have a good one. We'll see you next week.
Yeah, enjoy the warmer weather.
Yeah, no kidding.